page 158. Explanation of the Atmarama verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. The Lord next explained the different meanings of Itam Bhuta Guna. Itam Bhuta indicates fully transcendental pleasure, before which the transcendental pleasure known as Brahmananda becomes like straw. In the Hari Bhakti Sudodaya 14.36, a devotee says, Prasakshat Karanam Lada Visuddha Dista Visuddha Distita Shami Sukhani Gospadayante Brahmanya Pi Jagadguru. Translation. My Lord, O Supreme, simply by understanding you or seeing you, the pleasure which we derive is so great that the pleasure of Brahmananda becomes insignificant. In other words, the pleasure derived by understanding Krishna as he is, as the all-attractive reservoir of all pleasures, and the reservoir of all pleasure-giving taste, with all transcendental qualifications, attracts one to become his devotee. By virtue of such attraction, one can give up fruitive activities and all endeavors for liberation, and can even abandon the intense desire to achieve success in yoga mystic power. The attraction of Krishna is so intense that one can lose respect for all other means of self-realization and simply surrender unto the Supreme Personality of God. The Lord also explained the word guna in all its different meanings. Guna indicates the unlimited transcendental qualities of Krishna, primarily his Sakshi Ananda form. In his transcendental blissful knowledge and eternity, he is fully perfect, and his perfection is increased when he is controlled by the attention of his devotee. God is so kind and merciful that he can give himself in exchange for the devotional service of the devotee. His transcendental qualities are such that the perfection of his beauty, his perfect reciprocation of love between himself and his devotees, and the flavor of his transcendental qualities attract different kinds of transcendentals and literature souls. For example, he attracted the mind of Sanat Kumar simply by the aroma emanating from the flowers offered to him. The mind of Sukadeva Goswami was attracted by the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna, and the minds of the damsels of Vrindavan were attracted by his personal beauty. Rukmini's attention was attracted by his body features and transcendental qualities, and the mind of the goddess of fortune was attracted by his flute, playing, and other transcendental features. Lord Krishna attracts the minds of all young girls and elderly ladies by his childlike activities. He also attracts the minds of his friends by his friendly activities. When he appeared in Vrindavan, he even attracted the birds, beasts, trees, and plants. Indeed, everyone became attracted in love and affection for Krishna. So when someone has some opulence, is attractive, is very attractive. He has money, is attractive. His beauty also attracts. The Krishna is described, or the meaning of Krishna means all attractive. Why is he all attractive? Because he can zap the mind of anyone. We see in the material world how people, like we find, young girl runs away from home after one boy. The parents say, no, 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 you can't marry this boy. No. It's gone. So we can imagine if that happens, ordinary people, ordinary mortals, they have that power to zap our mind. And we just completely don't get it down to knots. So what about Krishna? What about Krishna? We have all that power is coming from the power of attraction. So this is just like the tip of the iceberg. And so Krishna is attracting everyone. And we are also here. So we want to get attracted to Krishna. And that's why we are coming to cultivate Bhakti Yoga, science of love and devotion to Krishna, by hearing about his wonderful pastimes. Hare Krishna. So we'll go to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Oh, that's clear. When are we stopping the Bhagavatam? No, when are we stop? When is the end time? 8:30. 8:30. Okay. So we have about 45 minutes. That's more than enough. Traditionally, academic class is about 30 minutes or 45 minutes. So this is more than enough. And sometimes we also present the paper at academic conferences for 20 minutes. 20-page paper for 20 minutes or 18 minutes. So, Canto 5, chapter what? 5. Chapter 5. Chapter 5, text 2. Okay. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, chapter 5, text 2. Lord Rishabhadev's teachings. This chapter is purely dealing on the teachings of Lord Rishabhadev. Mahasevan Dharamahu Vimuktis Mahasevan Dharamahu Vimuktis Tamodvaram Yosita Sanghi Sangam Tamodvaram Yosita Sanghi Sangam Mahantaste Samachita Pasanta Mahantaste Samachita Pasanta Dimanyavaha Suridham Sadovaye Dimanyavaha Suridham Sadovaye Mahasevam Dharamahu Vimuktis Mahasevam Dharamahu Vimuktis Tamodharam Yositam Sanghi Sangam Mahantaste Samachita Prasanta Mahantaste Samachita Prasanta Vimanyavaha Surita Sadavoye Vimanyavaha Surita Sadavoye Mahasevam Dharamahu Vimuktis Mahasevam Dharamahu Vimuktis Samachita Prasanta Translation: Mahan Sevam, service to the spiritually advanced persons called Mahatmas. Dwaram, Juwe, Ahu, they say, Vimukte, of liberation. Tamaha Dwaram, the way to the dungeon of a dark, hellish condition of life. Yositam, of women. Sangi, of associates. Sangam, association. Mahantaha, highly advanced in spiritual understanding. Te, de. Samchitaha, persons who see everyone in a spiritual identity. Prasantaha, very peaceful, situated in Brahman or Bhagavan. Vimayavo, Vimayavaha, without anger. One must distribute Krishna consciousness. The persons who are hostile, without becoming angry at them. Suridaha, well-wishers of everyone. Sadavaha, qualified devotees. Without abominable behavior. Ye, they who. Translation: Papa by Divine Wisdom Compound Child. Srila Bhajana Vinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Kapaman Spirit. Srila Prabhupada. One can attain the path of liberation from material bondage only by rendering service to the highly advanced spiritual personalities. These personalities are impersonalists and devotees. Whether one wants to merge into the lost existence or wants to associate with the personality of Godhead, one should render service to the Mahatmas. For those who are not interested in such activities, who associate with people fond of women and sex, the path of hell is wide open. The Mahatmas are equiposed. They do not see any difference between one living entity and another. They are very peaceful and are fully engaged in devotional service. They are devoid of anger, and they work for the benefit of everyone. They do not behave in an abominable way. Such people are known as Mahatmas. Please, kindly respond very quickly. One can attain the path of liberation. From material bondage. Only by rendering service to highly advanced spiritual personalities. These personalities are impersonalists and devotees. Whether one wants to merge into the lost existence, or wants to associate with the personality of Godhead, one should render service to the Mahatmas. For those who are not interested in such activities, who associate with people fond of women and sex, the path of hell is wide open. The Mahatmas are equiposed. They do not see any difference between one living entity and another. They are very peaceful and are fully engaged in devotional service. They are devoid of anger, and they work for the benefit of everyone. They do not behave in any abominable way. Such people are known was listening to Srila Prabhupada's purport. By His divine grace, His compound child, Srila Bhakti Vasudeva Swami Prabhupada Spirit. The human body is like a junction. One may either take the path of liberation or the path leading to hellish condition. How can one take these two paths described here? On the path of liberation, one associates with Mahatmas. And on the path of bondage, one associates with those attached to sense gratification and women. There are two types of Mahatmas, the impersonalist and the devotee. Although their ultimate goal is different, the process of emancipation is almost the same. Both want eternal happiness. One seeks happiness in impersonal Brahman, and the other seeks happiness in the association of the Supreme Personality of God. As described in the first verse, Brahma Sukhya. Brahman means spiritual or eternal. Both the impersonalist and the devotee seek eternal blissful life. In any case, it's advised that one become perfect. In the words of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 22.87, Asat Sangha Tyaga, E Vaishnava Achat. Sri Sanghi, Eka Asadu, Krishna Bhakta Ara. To remain unattached to the modes of material nature, one should avoid associating with those who are asat, materialistic. There are two kinds of materialists. One is attached to women and sense gratification, and the other is simply non-devotee. On the opposite side, on the positive side, is association with Mahatmas, and on the negative side is the avoidance of non-devotees and women hunters. I'm going to get into the answer. Saksur Militant Jane to smile. See a Guru Deva Maha. The Chaitanya on the staff here, Tom, Yena Guru. Swayam Guru, Padamayam, Padata Swav, Padata. Pandasri Krishna Chaitanya, Nityananda is called Guru Thaya, Chaitanya. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Guru Nityananda, Sila Reta, Sila Sala, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Namo Vishnu Padaya Vishnu Vishnu Bhutale, Semate Bhakti Vedanta, Nityana, Namaste Saraswati, Loa Avana, Acharya, Nirmete, Sumita, Kam Karotaraja, Panchakapatari Vishara, So this verse is not something that is hanging in a balance. It's not something abstract. It's just something very practical. It's talking about the power of rendering service to spiritually advanced souls, to the Mahatmas. And so the Bhagavatam is amazing. Amazing treatise in the sense that it brings to bear very practical points and how anyone can really live his or her life and attain perfection. This is the difference between the Vaishnava Vedanta and mundane knowledge. The mundane educators and the modern philosophers, they talk things that no one else can understand. Sometimes they even say things that they themselves they can understand. And the Bhagavatam is so lucid, it's so clear that anybody, even a teenager, a child, even hears this, a 10 years old child hears this statement, they understand. What is it? There's no ambiguity in it. So the point is, again, like I mentioned yesterday, the essence of service. Even the Mahatma, the pure devotee, or the impersonalist, transcendentalists, they are all objects of service. And when we talk about service, it's a constant. In our interactions, in everyday reality, we have to render service. The student has to render service to the professor. The man thinks that he is the controller of the whole family. He is the Ishvara. Sometimes he gets puffed up with Ishvara power. And he is serving everyone else in the family. Serving the wife, serving the children, serving everyone else. He goes to earn plenty of money, he comes to serve everyone else. Isn't it? Service is just so practical. So this same service attitude, when we align it, Papa will use the term, dovetail. If we dovetail this service attitude in devotional service, in our relationship with the great souls, what happened? The gateway to heaven, to the spiritual world, is open. And we're just walking. There's a remote control. Once you do this service, someone has pressed the remote control. The gate is open. It's just wide open. And if we don't do this service, we don't perform this obligation of rendering service to the transcendentalists, to the highly elevated soul, to the Mahatma. If we render service to the Duratmas, if we render service to the Duratmas, then this gate, the guy who is in charge of the gate, who will press it, who will press the remote control for the gate for you. He will press the remote control, he will open the gate for us. So there are two things here. One person is serve the Mahatmas, another person serves the Duratmas, and the result is not the same. So in our devotional culture, we are practicing to serve the Mahatma. And now the Mahatma has a version, devotee of the Lord. The Papa mentions that the Papa, even in mental, is distinguished. The Mahatma, there are two types of Mahatmas. The non-devotee and the devotee. Or the impersonalist and the devotee. Or the impersonalist and the personalist. The Vaishnavas are personalists. Why? Because they are worshipping the Supreme Personality of God in His personal form. The impersonalists, they are impersonal because they are worshipping what? The Brahman effulgence. They are worshipping the aura, they are worshipping the energy of the Lord. But what is the destination? Lord Brahma describes this in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Nivritai, Tashai, Upajya, Bhavasudha, Sota, Mana, Abhirama. These transcendental narrations are the devotee, the Mahatma, the pure devotee of the Lord. He drinks these narrations of the Lord with the ears, not with the mouth. He drinks the narrations of the Lord. Is an elixir. If you read about Garuda, you find how Garuda, he went to the heavenly planets to steal the elixir because he wanted to save his mother from the bondage of material existence, bondage or slavery to her sister. So, every intelligent person doesn't want to be in bondage. For instance, the slave trade, the great wars get fought. Who wants to be enslaved? Who wants to be controlled? Yes, tell me. I have someone here. I'd like to be controlled. Nobody, even a child, even your baby in the house, doesn't want to be controlled. So we can't really get out from that, from the control or from the grip of Maya, except we align with the service of the Mahatmas. And even the Mahatma, we have to identify whom we have to serve, the Vaishnava Mahatma or the devotee of the Lord. Then we are guaranteed of access to the spiritual world, to Krishna Loka or to Vaikuntha, whatever you want to do. So this is the simple formula. Service to the Mahatma, or service plus Mahatma is equals to Goloka. Simple mathematical formula. And so, if we don't want to do that, we are human beings. We have a fundamental right of choice. According to the United Nations Charter, every human being has a fundamental right of choice. You can't force anybody. For instance, you can't force any girl to marry a particular boy or any boy to marry a particular girl. No, it doesn't work. It's against the law. So choice is there. In spiritual life also choice is there. So as human beings, we can exercise this right of choice very nicely by choosing the right path that will allow us to become exonerated or become extricated from the shackles of material bondage. Or we could choose to be eternally in bondage by serving the Dharma. And by Dharma, here particularly, it implies associating or rendering service to the senses, or to the sensory modalities, and those who are non-devotees. Now the emphasis sometimes is made on associating with women. But what about the men? It's not that the Bhagavatam or the Vedic Shastra is gender biased. Sometimes people think, your books, they're gender biased, man. People make this claim sometimes. Because in the Vedic culture, it is basically a man who has to endeavor for perfection. But in the modern times, the women also have to endeavor for perfection. And so, both sides are there. The woman may be endeavoring for perfection. She has to be careful not to associate with men. Otherwise, there's a natural attraction between a man and a woman. It's like a magnet, okay? Magnet comes like this. If you get them close. Yeah. So sometimes people, I remember I had a lot of problems dealing with this when I was some years ago when I was in New Jersey when I was in Brahmachari. And some of the devotees, when they gave it a class, they emphasize so much about, I found it like, come on. So I made an argument one time that you're talking about women. I said, I've seen women who go out into the streets to preach, and men lure them into sex. They don't tell them. I've seen all these Christians. They're preaching like literally this. What's the name of these people who are about distributing pamphlets and all this? I've seen a number of cases of those women, those ladies who go out, young ladies who go out to preach, and especially when they go out alone, finish. A man will be unloaded. He said, I like your preaching. Come to my office, or I'm busy now, come to my house, some time, I need your books. I want to be part of you. And then the innocent woman goes there, and it turns to something else. So, the women who are also endeavoring on the path of perfection must be watchful. They should be careful. And therefore, it is both ways. And so, in a nutshell, the people who are so degraded, whose main objective is to simply, render service to their senses and the mind, and associate with worldly-minded, materialistic people. This is the symptom of a duratma, crippled-minded person. And so the objectives are different. In one type of situation, one type of service, one type of relationship, we are conditioned in this material world. We become nitya parents, eternally conditioned. Another type of service attitude to the Mahatma, we become nitya muktas. We become liberated, eternally liberated. So we have to choose what we want. It's not by force. No one is forcing anybody. Well, I can say, I love it here. Material world, I love it here. Or someone can say, I'm fed up with this place. I want to do the needful to get out from here. And therefore, it is important for us to understand the import or the purport of Srila Prabhupada. It is something very significant in our own lives, that at some point in time we should think, let me just prepare for death. Let me be ready for it. And this includes also the women. It's not that, the man is taking Bhanapasa, the man is taking science, and then the woman goes to look for another man for a relationship. It should be something that anyone and everyone should think positively about, and how to align with the service attitude of the Lord Mahatma. So here we are doing a little devotional service, but to who? To the great Mahatma, to the Lord. Whatever service we are doing in our Krishna Conscious movement or in our International Society for Krishna Conscious is service to Srila Prabhupada. Because he is the one who is the remote control. So if we serve him nicely, then he presses the button. To the gates, to Krishna Loka, to Vaikuntha Loka, they are open. So it's a very simple. What is the difficulty about this? It's a simple formula. Service, change the service attitude, is always there. Change the alignment. Align with, adopt that service with the Mahatma. And there will be what? All perfection. There will be purification. So, it is very instructive. And if you ever did these teachings are very amazing, they're very wonderful. Sometimes people read it and they try to align with it, and other people think that you're just fanatical. No, but this is instructions of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And so we have to understand that money alone cannot buy everything in this world, and that we need to be able to fix our minds on the service, on our devotional activities, on the service to Srila Prabhupada, on the service to Sisi Radha Govinda, Sisi Gauranita, and we will be the beneficiaries of the results that comes after now. We may not get the results immediately, but even those results we are experiencing then in our own lives. We have a change of attitudes. The things that we are very much inclined to do in the past, we no longer become interested in them. So this is due to the purification. So one should not think that, I've rendered this devotional service for so many years. I've been associated with devotees for so many years, and my mind still does this. My senses are still wired and all this. Yeah, the senses will always agitate us, but then the point is we should not give up the devotional service out of frustration. We should align properly, learn to render service to the great souls. And when they say, I don't find the great souls all the time, they come only briefly and go. Huh? Yes, so I remember one time in one country, so there was one of the gurus who came that time we attended devotional service. And one of the disciples said, Guru Maharaj, so you're saying this, you're saying that, we should render service to the pure devotee, then you don't stay here all the time, and very few days now you'll be gone. So he asked, he responded that, do you have a temple president here in this temple? She said, yes. He said, go get the temple president and ask for some service. And when he's pleased, you know that I am pleased. Yeah. So this is a simple thing. Good question. Mahatmas, they're not there. We want to serve. They're not there. Their representatives are there. So we should be the needful. And in America, they say, grow up. We have to grow up. So the Bhagavatam is not Bhagavatam. Any comments or questions?
Maharaj, you were saying about serving the Mahatmas. By doing so, it also is spiritual with his open. It sounds so easy and nice. And it is also said, if we're even attached to a mustard seed, we can't go back to the spiritual world. So how can we understand?
Yeah, this is the point. It's just like if you are in school, your professor is anxious for you to pass the exams. So the professor comes, and you know the grading period is so subtle and gross. Just by attending the classes, you get a mark for, you get a percentage. For your total 100%, you get a percentage. There's a percentage, a mark set aside for just attending the classes. There's a mark for the test. There's a mark for returning your homeworks. So it's not just, the final exam, 100%. No, it's not like that. All these things are calculated in mundane institutions. What about spiritual life? So, we should not think that we are going to be able to become 100% pure, 100% detached. We have these physical bodies, that is very difficult. But if we are able to follow the four regulative principles, render service in alignment with the pure devotee. In other words, for those who are in ISKCON, render service in Srila Prabhupada's movement. He's giving us basic instructions. And even those basic instructions could be so difficult for people to follow. No illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication, no what? No violence. Sometimes we think the meat eating. No, meat eating means to go and eat meat. But it literally means violence. We should not be violent. We should not be violent.
Violent.
Yes, violent. Yeah.
No violence.
And what does violence mean? Violence, according to the American Psychological Association, means to hurt someone or to hurt a group or an individual. In other words, if you think we are so packed up in ourselves and we go about being offensive to people, committing uprisings, that checkmates our devotional progress. But again, we have to understand that, just like I mentioned, the mercy of the Guru is there, the mercy of Krishna is there. But the mercy of the devotees is also very important. For instance, okay, I have a spiritual master, he has given me some instruction. And I say, well, to hell with everyone else. My Guru gave me instruction, finish. Sometimes these things are going on in our movement. And because a lot of, social friction and psychological imbalance. And sometimes they cause even stagnation because they will become offensive to other people. So the point is, when we see the devotees around us as Krishna's past and past, Krishna mentioned, Mama evam so jiva loka jiva bhuta sanatana. In other words, we have to see each and every one like our biological brothers and sisters and treat them in that way. Tell a story. I was in Canada and one devotee was telling me some brahmacharis. So I was in Montreal at that time. And then he came to meet me to make some inquiries on how to help the devotees, his team members. So he said, Maharaj, what can I do to help these devotees? I said, what you can do? Are you ready to hear it? I said, the way to really help these devotees grow fast is to be able to have good reciprocation from them. You also don't have the attitude that because you are the one who is in charge, now you are in control. I said, you treat them. I told him, treat them like you would treat your younger brother. You know his response? He said, Maharaj, this is very difficult. Then Krishna said, Mama evam so jiva loki jiva buddha. What does that mean to us? What does that mean to us? If we are all part and parcels of Krishna, shouldn't we treat each and every one as our brother and sister? So then he says, it's very difficult. So, back to your point. Our access to the spiritual world is not just based on only our strength. It's based on the mercy of the Guru, based on the mercy of Krishna, and based on the mercy of the devotees also. So sometimes we miss this last point, the devotees. We can treat the devotees around us in a very emotionally brutal way. And we think, I'm alright, I chant 64 hours. Yes. So that is an area we need to be careful about. If we work cooperatively with other devotees, see each and every one as our spiritual master, that means someone who we can learn something from, and not just think, I know it all, my way or no way. So a devotional life is a simple process. Let us not make it complicated. Vaishnava relationship is so important. That if you really attain high level of Vaishnava relationship, other devotees, you may be a nonsense, so-called nonsense person, other devotees will petition the deity on your behalf. Please help this Prabhu. Please, Radha Gopinath, help this Mataji. She's so nice. Relationship matters too much. Too much. It's so important. Yes. So yes, the point is, if an ordinary professor is struggling so hard to pass his students, what about Krishna? What about Prabhupada? So the marks that we're not able to, because there is all of these other areas, complementary things that comes with just coming to the temple, just participating in the services, just doing a devotional service, and what? Following the following. Papa will arrange to praise the Lord. This is basic now. And it looks like a very simple thing, but it's not simple for everyone. Because even ordinary, you go to speak, and especially preachers, because we are following these things and sometimes we think it's very simple, and we see somebody, for the first day, and they will tell, Lord is saying, no gambling, no intoxication, no this, no this. It's not going to come.
All right.
Because this is the norm outside there, and he's just attacking them. You're telling them, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. No. A devoted preacher has to be tactful. Tact is the watchword. Tactfulness. So yes, the point is that our mind is not enough. We need the mercy of Krishna, the devotees, and the good. Okay? And we'll be secure. We should not be in anxiety about it. We should have good relationship with each other. We should treat each other as our brother and sister, with care, with love. Yes.
I already mentioned dovetail. Under authority of the Jagannath festival or any festival, someone called you to do something like either pharmacy or story or music, but then how are you sure that when you're doing it, it's purely done because it was done materialistically, materialistically it was done for money and to save the country, you have to go to school.
Yeah.
You know Julian at Berkeley? I was to go to that school to study music for the country, but Shabbat had changed it. So now that ability and skillfulness, the devotees to use that in the service of Lord Jagannath Festival is coming up. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, the individual, how does he know that he's playing some percussion rhythm or what have you? How is it that any stroke is purely done for?
Right, that's a nice point.
Yes,
it's a nice point. Okay, for instance, if someone is a good harmonium player or percussionist or guitarist or whatever he's playing. So your question is, how do we know he's been dovetailed?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a matter of consciousness. The mindset. When we are doing it, what is our modus vivendi? There are two things there, modus operandi and modus vivendi. A way of operation. How we are doing it. We will be doing it very nicely, okay? And at the back of our mind, what are we thinking? We're thinking, I don't even see how I'm expertly doing this. I didn't see how I'm so wonderful. Look, but if you're thinking about Krishna, begging Krishna, internalizing what we are doing, supplicating to the Lord to be used in His service. And that's the difference. Now I tell you one thing. Yeah. 3 devotees go to the altar to do puja. They don't get the same results. The same altar, okay? They don't get the same result. Why? The mindset. The modus vivendi. Modus operandi is the same. Modus vivendi varies. The operational values is the same. But the manner is different. The devotion is different. So whatever we're doing, dovetail, it means we have to align that. We have to align our mindset in service to the Lord. We are doing something and we are contemplating. I mean, it's like even japa. We're chanting japa and we are literally begging the Lord to pick us up from this suffering situation and fix us in His devotional service. So, that's it. You know, all of us are chanting japa, but the results are not the same. Why? It's a purpose. So, whatever service we are doing, whether we are playing harmonium, playing percussion, drum, or whatever, we can align this and become purified very speedily. We can align this, dovetail this in the service of the Lord and get purified very easily. It's a matter of our reflection, our contemplation, our, devotion.
Because it attracts the materialists and but then the individual have to
but if it even attracts the materialists,
yes,
it's good because then they get zapped by the sound waves, the transmitted sound waves.
Especially if you can do it better than them. Hare Krishna does this better than...
That's why a lot of devoted musicians,
yes.
they attract so many people, you know. Because these days, what is most attractive for people is food, music, dance. These are things that everybody... People are not interested in philosophies. People are not so much interested in philosophy. If you go to any major university, the students who go to register for the philosophy department have a very low registry. People don't like to go there because they will go and crack their heads.
Why is it so? Because I was involved in the jazz with the best like Miles Davis, the best musician for jazz, and it's a mathematical equation. You have to, like you're making a solo.
Music is not a simple thing either. It's not a simple thing. It's like any other type of art. It's not so simple. I mean, like that to become a doctor is not so simple. The music is not so it's not so simple thing. If you go to the details, you know, it's too much.
Too much.
So then you can use whatever skills you have in the service of the Lord. Knowing that the Lord has given me this, let me give it back. Yes, Pablo?
Thank you very much.
Not being critical, but there's a connection missing here when we are being instructed to be a servant of the servant of the servant. So when we talk about the servant Mahatma, we just miss that whole progression.
No, I mentioned that. I mentioned that in a relationship to a devotee asking the Guru. Maharaj, you're talking about service to the Mahatmas, but you're not, you come here, momentarily and then you be gone. So the Guru says, oh, do you have a temple president here? She said, yes. Go meet the temple president, ask for some service in this temple. When you serve nicely, he is pleased. You should know that. I am pleased because he's Krishna representative. So service, and that's the major thing I was talking about that also yesterday, about how we should be of service orientation to each other. Service orientation to each other. Not only, it is very easy to serve senior people. What about junior people? What about your peers? So your so-called mates. All of the relationships are based on service. And if you are not inclined in rendering service to each other, the relationship will very easily fail. So yeah, everyone is involved in the whole process.
Part B to that is
and especially, this is one thing all of you or all of us must hear, and especially a community where we have disciples of Prabhupada. They are the ones who have helped us, those of us in the second generation devotees, to be where we are. The way we honor, respect, worship our spiritual master is the same way we should honor such disciples of Prabhupada. We should not think, I am greater than everybody else. No, this is something, because, see, the Vedic culture is based on respect. Respect. We should not, westernize the Hare Krishna movement. As soon as we come into the temple, for some few months, or a few years, we think we know everything else. We know everything more than everyone else. So we should have a culture of respect. Especially for Prabhupada disciples. We have to be very careful. When we offend them, we offend them Prabhupada. And it's very easy to offend anyone. Who think I'm better than anyone else. No one is better than anyone else. Anyone who thinks is better than anyone else is in trouble. So that's something I want to share. Because, in most cases you'll find that the general tendency is to minimize people. In the 21st century, it's very easy to minimize people. Oh, I give very good classes. Okay, I'm better than you. A devotee thinks everyone else is better than him. A materialistic is better than everyone else. So,